Hello, I'm Ian Davis. I'm a medical oncologist from Melbourne and I'm chair of ANZUP Cancer Trials Group. We're speaking to you from the ANZUP Annual Scientific Meeting in July 2017. And I'm very happy to have with me Professor Silke Gillessen. Silke is a medical oncologist from St Gallen in Switzerland, one of our eminent international visitors. Silke, with her colleague Aurelius Omlin, chairs the Advanced Prostate Cancer Consensus Conference, and the second one of those was just held in March of this year. Silke, can you tell us a little bit about the APCCC and what's happened since then?
Yes, so we talked about that before. So actually the idea doing a consensus conference in prostate cancer really came up when we realized how many topics there are in prostate cancer where we don't have good evidence to judge in our daily clinical practice what to advise to a patient. And we thought it would be very good to have like a consensus conference with a lot of experts who do mostly treat prostate cancer patients to see what they would do in the same situation. And so we started in 2015, very naive, very kind of like, let's just try it. And it was actually a pretty good success with everyone coming who we invited, like really big names, and it was very interesting. So we did it again, as you know, this year. And I think, you know, it was, as you said, like I think in your first speech, the ambience was so good 2015 that we were like, oh, hopefully this is going to work again in 2017 with all these fruitful discussions and really good things coming out of the conference. And if anything, we thought it was even better and more discussions, more fruitful than the first time. And I think the thing that really is amazing, that in some topics we could really find very, very good expert consensus, and in other areas there is really no consensus at all. And I think that's, you know, we didn't envision that like 2015, but that's probably really the areas where we should do clinical trials, and that's helping us perhaps to find important topics where we should invest, you know, in for research, for clinical cancer research.
So we had something like 150 pretty complex questions that we all considered as a panel after a couple of days of presentations. And there were some areas where we had consensus on those, but there were a few areas where there were some surprising opinions, and there were quite a few areas where there was no consensus at all. So for someone who's reading about the conference or reading the paper and seeing these areas of disagreement, what are they to make out of that, do you think?
Yes, I think that's why we really tried to comment in the paper the uncertainties, and being a bit philosophical also to say that, you know, whatever the experts decided on is not the truth, because we don't have good data to support it. So it may be that some of these errors, I mean, the experts are going to prove wrong, even if they had a consensus. And you were one of the real good commentators, right? To make that paper, I think, in a way also very critical about experts, about expert opinion, but I guess it's the best that we have, like in the moment. So it can help in your daily practice to see what the expert would do, but still you have to decide together with your patient what you want to do in an individual case. And I mean, so we bought free access, so everyone can really look at the paper and look at the sections that interest him or her, and then see also the critical comments. So that's why we really decided to do a discussion of each chapter, to say, here we have some data, that's why probably people did that, and sometimes we really had really surprising results without a lot of good basic data to support it. So I think, yeah, that is going to be really, you have to read the paper with the comments to make most out of it, I think.
Yeah. So groups like ANZUP are here to try to develop evidence-based practice. Some people might say a group of experts is more eminence-based practice. How would you respond to that sort of criticism? We've got people who are highly opinionated and working, some people might say, in an ivory tower. How can people working out in the general community take this information on board?
I totally agree. I mean, as we know, in the pyramid, the expert opinion comes really down, but that's one expert, right? So what we try to do is like really having this anonymous voting. So we have 60 experts, and so you get perhaps a bit more of a balanced expert opinion than just only asking one expert. I also have to be to consensus conferences that were not so strictly organized as we did with the Delphi process and everything. And then sometimes if you have someone who's very loud, one expert who's very loud, this opinion's gonna make it into the consensus result. Whereas I think this voting really makes everyone very free, even if the very eminent experts say something, you don't have to be the same opinion and vote for it. So yes, it's not high-level evidence, but it's probably a bit more than just like evidence or eminence from one expert. It's like multi-eminence opinion, but it's hopefully a bit more valuable.
Another thing I noticed out of the process was how the field had moved on over only 2 years. There are things that we thought in 2015 that we no longer thought to be the case in 2017.
That's amazing to me as well, right? So like whenever something comes up now in the conferences, like now the ASCO data showing that abiraterone together with ADT gives a survival benefit as well as docetaxel does in addition to ADT. Like all of a sudden, all these new questions pop up, right? So are we giving ABI? Are we giving docetaxel in addition to ADT? It's clear for the patients who are not fit for docetaxel, but the others, so which one is better? You have a short course of chemotherapy, or you have treatment until progression with a drug, 4 tablets plus 5 milligrams of of prednisone. So, I mean, there's new questions coming with every new kind of clinical research that comes out. And I think that's fascinating, right? With the new data we're having, we are generating new questions for daily clinical practice that have not been addressed in the clinical trial, because at that time the standard was ADT alone. And I think that's actually a fascinating thing. And that's also very kind of good to see how much progress we're doing.
Well, it's a great privilege to be part of it. Thank you so much for coming to the ANZUP Annual Scientific Meeting. It's been wonderful having you.
It was fantastic time in Australia, and I want to thank you and Margaret, who did really everything to make this a fantastic conference. Thanks,
you.
Silke.